Hi guys, it's Mr. Walsh here. Today we're going to work on finding fractions and breaking up wholes into equal parts. This is something we have talked about in class, maybe in a station or even on iReady, but it's not something that we really had the chance to go over when we were meeting face to face. That's fine, because today we're going to do that. Before we can begin though, we need to ask ourselves, what are fractions? Right now, if you're able to, I want you to grab a sheet of paper and a pencil or something to write with as we move through learning how to identify or read and write fractions. Please pause the video now and get these items if you are able to. If you are unable to get these items, it is okay, because as we move through some of the parts where we're going to work from home, I want you to just try to do some of these answers out in your head, or try to figure it out best you can in your head. And for each one that you get right, give yourself a little pat on the back or a little reassurance that, hey, I kind of get what fractions are. Again, it's okay if you do not have, a paper or pencil. Just try your best to follow along with me as we go. What is a fraction? Great question. A fraction is part of a whole. It's like a piece of a pizza or a piece of a pie. As you can see, the pizza below on the left is broken up in 8 different slices, and the pie over here is broken up into 6 different slices. If we were to eat one piece of this pizza, we'd be eating 1/8. If we were to eat one piece of this pie, we'd be eating 1/6. Equal parts. To have a fraction, just like we just saw, you in the pizza and the pie, you need to have equal parts, not equal parts. These are not fractions because they're not broken up equally. However, this blue rectangle down here is equal parts in our fractions because it is broken up into 5 equal parts or sections. So one of these blue sections here would be 1/5 because it is an equal part of the rest of the whole. Again, if you take away anything from this slide, if you see that these are not equal, you can't have a fraction that way. Everything in the whole, out of the whole, or in the whole rectangle has to be broken up into equal parts or equal sections. It's going to make more sense as we go along, but just keep that in mind for now. Let's talk about some of those key terms or vocabulary that we're going to see as we move through this fraction unit. A numerator is the top number in a fraction. It's how many parts are shaded. Let's say this word together. Numerator. Let's do it one more time. Numerator. Again, a numerator is how many parts are shaded. A denominator, though, is the bottom number of a fraction. It's how many parts make up the whole, or how many equal parts is it broken up into. Let's say this word together, this bottom one, denominator. Let's do it one more time. Denominator. It's kind of a tricky word, but again, it's how many parts make up a whole. We need to remember these key terms. We're going to be using them throughout this entire week and into next week too. Let's talk about how we read fractions, how we identify fractions when we see them. We need to remember to read fractions as the top number first and then the bottom number, as the numerator first and then the denominator. So as we read them, we got to make sure we read that numerator and then we read that denominator. Let's remember that the numerator is how many parts of the fraction are shaded, and the denominator is how many equal parts make up the whole. Let's read through a couple different fractions. This is 1/2. 1 is the numerator, 2 is the denominator. This is 1/3. 1 is the numerator, 3 is the denominator. And finally, we have 1/4. What's the numerator here? What's the denominator? If you think that the numerator is 1, you'd be correct, and that 4 is the denominator. Again, we got to remember, top number first, then that bottom number. Let's try a couple bigger ones or trickier ones. 1/6. 1 is the numerator, 6 is the denominator. Then we have 1/8. Again, we have 1 as the numerator and 8 as the denominator. And finally, we have 1/10, where 1 is the numerator and 10 is our denominator. Let's read through these together. We'll start with the first column. Read with me as I begin. 1/2, 1/3, and 1/4. Let's track it with me one more time. 1/2, 1/3, and 1/4. Now let's move over to that second column and let's read these together. 1/6, 1/8, and 1/10. One more time through. 1/6, 1/8, and 1/10. Notice how a lot of these end with that TH. You're going to be seeing that a lot, especially in 3rd grade and into 4th grade when we're dealing with smaller fractions. Keep those in mind. Awesome, awesome work. What is a fraction? Fractions are parts of a whole, but what is the fraction of the colored part of each picture below? Now, I gave you some of these answers, but we're going to make it a little bit harder when we move on to the next slide. But let's go through these ones together. This first one over here is 1/3 because our numerator is 1 because one part is shaded. And our denominator is 3 because it has 3 equal parts. Let's move over to the next one. Our numerator is 1 because one part is shaded. And our denominator this time is 8 though, because it's the same circle as over here, but it's broken up into 8 equal parts. If you were to count them out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's continue on. Our numerator here is, say it out loud if you can, it's 1 because we have one part that is shaded, which is this red part right here. And our denominator is what? Say it out loud. It's 2 because this is only broken up into 2 sections. So this is 1/2 because half of it is shaded and half of it is not. This next one over here, our numerator is 1 because we again have one part shaded, but our denominator is 6 because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal parts. That's why we have 1/6. And try that last one. Say it out loud. What's our numerator? Our numerator is 1. And what's our denominator? 1, 2, 3, 4. Our denominator is 4, which makes up the fraction 1/4. Awesome, awesome job. So as you can see, we only shaded in one section of each, but you can see how different they are because they take up different amounts of space. These are all different types of fractions that you are going to be working with. Let's move on to the next page. Again, what is the fraction of the colored part of each picture below? Now, I left some numerators, which is that top number, the amounts that's shaded, or the number of slices or sections that are shaded, and I left some denominators, that bottom number, which how many equal parts is it broken up into? Blank. Your job right now is to pause that video and try your best to write down each of the fractions of the circles or pies that are in front of you. Figure out what is that numerator, how many are shaded, or figure out the denominator. Say the denominator is 3 because there are 3 sections or 3 equal parts in this pie. I want you to pause this video and attempt to do these 5 problems now. And I'd like you to write them on a piece of paper using that pencil that you got at the very beginning. Again, if you are unable to do this, that is completely fine. Just try to do them out in your head. But pause the video and take about 2 minutes or so and try to solve these now. Awesome, awesome, awesome job. The first one is 4/6 because we have 4 sections that are shaded and the whole thing's broken up into 6 equal parts. You should have filled out 4/6. This one's tricky. This second one over here. This one is 2/2 because like the slide before, it is broken up into 2 equal sections, but both are shaded, making it 2/2. Kudos to whoever gets that. The next one we have is 2/3. We know this because we have 2 parts that are shaded, out of the 3 equal parts. So our numerator is 2. Our denominator is 3. Another one we have is 7/8 because we have 7 parts that are shaded out of the 8 equal parts. Our numerator is 7. What's our denominator? It's 8. Finally, our last one is 3/4 because we have 3 parts that are shaded out of the 4 equal parts. Awesome, awesome, awesome job to everybody that was able to get those right. If you weren't able to get those right, that is completely fine. This week we're working on going over all this new material, and I just want to see you guys try your best. So as you're moving through the week, think about some of these things that we talked about and just try to do the best you can. We're going to do a couple more quick slides, and then I'm going to let you try some on your own. What is the fraction of the blue part that is pictured below? I want you to notice here that just because we've changed shapes from a circle to a rectangle, we're still looking at a fraction because it's divided into equal parts like I talked about in the beginning. I want you to pause this video and write down what you think the numerator is, the missing numerator. We know the denominator is 4 because it's broken into 4 equal parts, but what's our numerator? How many parts are shaded? Pause the video and do that now. You should have written down 2/4. What is the name of the fraction? It's 2/4. Say that with me one more time. 2/4. The missing numerator was 2. That's because 2 parts of the 4 equal sections were shaded. And the denominator is 4 because we have 4 equal parts. Now we're going to look at a quick word problem before we end. Example, I ordered 1 whole pizza. It was cut into 8 slices. I ate 2 slices. That's not a lot for me. Normally I could put down at least 5 or 6, but I ate 2 of the slices. What fraction of the whole pizza did I eat? Now, knowing everything that we know about fractions, I want you to pause the video right now, and I want you to say to yourself, what is my fraction here? If Mr. Walsh took away 2 of those slices, what fraction of the pizza did he eat? Let's pause the video and try to come up with the numerator and denominator or the answer now. Please pause your video. Thank you. Again, we're looking for the number of slices I ate and the total number of pizza slices. The total number of pizza slices you can count out on there are 8. But what was the number of slices that I ate? The number of slices that I ate was 2. I ate 2/8. Now that I know that, as you can see in the bottom left here, we know that we had 6 left over, so therefore I ate 2/8 of the pizza. But let's spice things up even a little bit more. What fraction is equal to 2/8? The answer is 1/4. Because if I were to cut that same pizza up into 4 sections, and I were to eat one of those sections, it would be the same amount as if I cut it up into 8 equal sections and ate 2 of them. So 2/8 equals 1/4. If you look, you can see that both pictures have the same amount of pizza left over and have the same amount eaten or taken away. They're just cut differently. These are called equivalent fractions. Equivalent fractions are fractions that equal the same, but if we were to draw them out in the object, they would take up the same amount of space. If we were to shade an object or a circle and a circle with equivalent fractions, they would take up the exact same amount of space. The exact same space would be shaded. If you're feeling up for it, I know this is a little tricky, but if you're feeling up for it and want to try things that are a little more spicy, attempt some of the 2-pepper or 3-pepper problems linked on Tuesday's slide. The more peppers, the harder or spicier the problem is. Don't be afraid to test out those taste buds and see how spicy you can get. I'd like to see at least a couple of you try some of these 2-pepper and 3-pepper problems. It's okay if you struggle with these. I just want you to try your best. I cannot wait to see how you guys do this week. Please come back to this video for help if you need a reminder throughout the week. You guys got this. Have a fantastic week.